Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead now to some of the other stuff from Champ Weekend. We are sitting here on Monday. We have the number one seed, I think, still in some doubt. I think there's two that I think are safe. There's a couple are still up for grabs. You had to say right now, when we were looking at the bracket in 6 days, who are the 4-1 seeds in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Gonzaga is safe. I would say for sure. I don't, unless they somehow fell off. I wouldn't see any way that they're not a one seed. Baylor is good, I would say, yeah, as a one seed. Arizona, if they're able to take care of business in the Pac-12, is pretty much going to lock up a one. Um, well, I guess you would say either Baylor or Kansas, right? I would say probably the winner of the Big 12 is going to be a one seed. I could see both if they were to meet in the final, which I think is possible. And then you look out for one of the SEC teams, Auburn or Kentucky. I don't know if Duke has a shot, but I would say there's probably about 6 or 7 teams that have a legit shot at it. Gonzaga, I think, is kind of locked up for sure. And then we'll see about the other three.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga and Arizona are both safe, in my opinion here.
Yeah.
I think Baylor's probably got the inside path over Kansas. I don't like the way Kansas played down the stretch. I think they're probably going to end up on the one line. I would guess at this point, I'd say Auburn. I feel like they're got an easier path because the SEC final. They do that, they'll at least get the one seed. I do think Kentucky's probably in there. I think Wisconsin could have been in there if they didn't lose to Nebraska. If they won the Big Ten and they won the Big Ten Conference Tournament, they could have had a strong case to get up there.
Do you think Duke has a shot at a one or no?
I think they've lost too many games at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they would have taken care of business against Carolina and then win the ACC, they'd have a case. I think they're pretty much stuck on the 2 line now, though.
Yeah, I think they are going to be probably like the 7 seed on the S curve, even, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
And now we'll have some fun here because we were talking last week about after all, we'll do the blind resume game again, but the bubble kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think we see this time of year a lot of bubble teams are kind of mediocre teams, right? There's a reason why you're on the bubble, because you're not good enough to be in the field of 64 normally. You're kind of playing for your bubble life here, but we're seeing a lot of teams kind of slip up here down the stretch. No one is really taking advantage of opportunities and played themselves off the bubble. I guess Rutgers has a little bit, but you can name a lot of teams that have kind of fallen off here and not really done a whole lot to impress. So it's still wide open, though. I would say, looking at the bracketology. I mean, Rutgers has kind of snuck in. Go ahead.
I'm going to throw Lenardi's bracketology on the screen for us here in terms of
there we go. Okay.
Because I was looking into the weekend. I mean, over the weekend, a lot of teams made some big moves to put themselves closer to the actual field. Like North Carolina are personal punching boys. I think now we can say they're safely in. They won at Duke. They finally got that big win we were looking for.
Yes. Yeah. North Carolina, unfortunately, is in now. Unfortunately for us, is in now. But can we talk about how North Carolina is ranked all of a sudden? Where did that come from? How did they get ranked after one win? That's something that we can complain about if we're going to complain about anything.
Yeah, I don't know how they got in the rankings. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, come on. They go from a bubble team to a top 25 team after one win. That's one thing that we can rip on, at least.
That's the AP, just looking at the win total and seeing that they beat Duke at Duke and Coach K last game, overrating them a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot of AP voters who probably didn't watch much of North Carolina all season long and then watched that last game against Coach K and now think that they're a top 25 team for sure.
Because they're going, 23 wins, beat one at Duke, great, in the poll.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the few games that they've watched all season long. A lot of voters, I would say.
Yeah, in terms of teams made moves on the bubble here, Memphis, I think, had a good 2-win week. Swept Houston. I think they're pretty much in the field. Michigan had a good week. They beat Michigan State. They beat Ohio State, so they're in the field now. And Rutgers too. They have to go 2-1. They beat Indiana again. They had to win. They held on against Penn State. And we'll get to them in a minute. But I feel like where they are in the Big Ten bracket, they should be feeling good too.
Yeah, absolute big week for them. Huge win for them on Wednesday against Indiana. Who Indiana just they seem like they can't seem to get over the edge there. But that was a great finish. Ron Harper Jr. nailing the shot at the end there. That was awesome. And then, like you said, they hang on against Penn State. They avoid that loss. They're the 4 seed in the Big Ten now. I think that they should be feeling pretty good about themselves going into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I'm looking at the thing. We have Xavier here. He has them as the last 4 teams in, which is a spot you do not want to be if you're the Musketeers, the way you've been playing here. I mean, look at these teams that are on the outside here. How do you get excited about any of these? Indiana can't barely beat anybody away from Assembly Hall. BYU just lost to San Francisco again, so they didn't even make the semifinals of WCC. Dayton I like, but they have 4 quad 4 losses and 3 in a row at home in November. Virginia Tech, Virginia. We know how much we love the ACC. VCU, Florida, Texas A&M. Oregon fell off the page because they couldn't beat. They took like a week off. It's like nobody on the outside here, apart from maybe Dayton, you're excited about getting in the field.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Oregon stunk this weekend as well. Florida missed a big opportunity. Like Virginia Tech, Virginia, both playing the crappy ACC and haven't been able to really separate themselves. This could be maybe a year where it's not a very controversial bubble. I don't know, unless one of those teams, one of those 8 teams that we're looking at right now, unless they do some major work in their conference tournaments, none of them really have a fantastic case as to why they should be in the field of 68.
The one I will feel like I'm going to be worried about on the 8 that are in page in terms of like their resume is like, if Wyoming loses the first round of the Mountain West tournament, I could see them getting screwed. And that would annoy me because I could see them just giving Indiana the berth for some reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think is Wyoming let me look at that real quick. I think they're the 4 seed as well. Yeah, they are. They're the 4. So yeah, they've got to get at least a game to really feel good. I would think that if they get a game, that they'll be in a good spot, and then I think they would play Boise or potentially play Boise in the quarterfinals. I guess it would be. So yeah, but I could see a scenario for sure where they drop the first one and then they get booted out of the field, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at some of the conference tournaments here. We're going to start with the ACC tournament. We're going to go look at that bracket right now, and I'm going to pull that one up again. All these brackets coming from John Rothstein's Twitter account here. In terms of the ACC here, I think the thing to watch here is I think the bottom of the bracket down here, I think you got your 2 potential bid thieves, Virginia Tech and Virginia. If one of them can get through the final, they have a shot here. I think if you're Miami here, you better win your first game. I don't think the resume is as good as Joe Laurie makes it out to be.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at that bottom of the bracket, I mean, Virginia Tech and Virginia, are you really scared of Notre Dame and North Carolina? I don't think either of them really terrifies you, and that's a pretty good path there to the semifinals. Yeah, and up top, Miami, they will probably get Wake Forest in the quarterfinals, another team that's kind of looking on the bubble, probably on the right side of the bubble. But yeah, Miami, if you lose that first game to Wake Forest, your resume could be taking a bit of a hit there. But in terms of a champion in this one, it of course runs through Duke. I think that there's a very clear drop off between Duke and the number 2 seed Notre Dame, and I know UNC just beat Duke, but yeah, I think that this is Duke's tournament to lose for sure.
I'm with you. I feel like the UNC game is sort of extenuating circumstances where like there was so much pressure on those kids who win that game in Coach Kesey's last home game here, and that they couldn't do it. There was just too much pressure, I think, and now they'll have a big burden lifted off them going into Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe it gives North Carolina some momentum going into the ACC tournament. But yeah, that was a kind of a different scenario there for that one. But that tournament being in Brooklyn is ridiculous. I know that it's scheduled far beforehand, but to have Coach K's final ACC tournament be in Brooklyn, kind of as like the B tournament in town after the Big East, that's got to be kind of a black eye for the ACC. I'm sure that they kind of regret doing that, and they'd rather have it be in Greensboro, where it's known to be. Again, I know that they schedule those so far in advance, but man, that's going to stink to see the ACC in Brooklyn, where no one's really even going to be paying attention to it locally.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Braziller last week on the podcast said this is the JV tournament in New York.
It is, yeah, and I mean, you look at the 2 brackets, and it's clear, that the Big East is going to get 7 teams in potentially to the NCAA tournament. Yeah, the Big East owns the city for sure for this week, and I mean the ACC will get a couple of headlines here and there. Maybe if it's a Duke UNC final, they'll get some nice publicity there. Of course, that'll be Coach K's last ACC tournament, but yeah, I just don't think anyone locally really cares about the ACC outside of maybe the Syracuse fans that are going to come in for their game.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the Big Ten bracket now. I'm going to throw that one up on the screen here for people watching the YouTube version. Again, Mike Phillips on YouTube. This is the Big Ten tournament here. We talked about Rutgers earlier. The fact they managed to get the 4 seed, I think, is massive for them because the one thing they cannot afford right now is bad losses. And like, unless somehow Nebraska or Northwestern gets past Iowa and gets to the quarterfinal against Rutgers here, I think no way they can lose to is going to be a bad loss for them.
That's a great point. I mean, a loss to Iowa, let's say, in the quarterfinals, yeah, that doesn't kill them. I think that they would be sweating it out for sure on Selection Sunday. But yeah, like you said, they avoid having to play really that second round game against a team like Nebraska or Northwestern. We saw them struggle with Penn State the other day. Yeah, getting that double bye for Rutgers is huge. And can you imagine, like 5-6 years ago, telling someone that Rutgers would be a top 4 seed and getting a double bye in the Big Ten tournament? I mean, it's just crazy the job that they've done over there, and the improvement that we've seen from Rutgers over the past couple of seasons to be in a spot where they're up there with the top teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game is most intriguing me early on here is this Indiana Michigan game, because both those teams are right on the ball mix. I think if Indiana loses, they're done. I don't think there's any shot to get in if they can't beat Michigan.
Yeah, that's kind of like I think Michigan's probably good, I would say, with the week that they just had. But yeah, Indiana, if they're gonna have any shot, they gotta take care of Michigan. And then, I would say Illinois kind of becomes like a playing game for them. If they're in the semifinals on Saturday, I would say that they're probably feeling really good about themselves. Unless there's a bunch of bid stealers. But yeah, that's kind of like a very intriguing 8-9 matchup for sure.
Yeah, it is a very good 8-9 matchup for sure. I do think I like in terms of potential semifinal matchups here, I think the potential Purdue Ohio State game on the Friday would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a good one as well. Two of the top teams. I've been so high on Purdue all season long. They go in as the 3 seed. Yeah, that could be a really, really fun one. And I would assume Ohio State gets through facing either Minnesota or Penn State. I really liked Wisconsin in this tournament a couple of days ago, and then obviously they suffered that horrible loss yesterday, and they lose Johnny Davis. Hopefully he's okay and good to go. But yeah, in terms of a winner in this one, I don't know. I really think it's up in the air. I don't think that Rutgers is going to win the whole thing, but I could see, of course, Illinois, of course, Purdue, like you mentioned, Ohio State. I would still think that you got to keep Wisconsin in the mix. This is another one where you could probably pick, I would say, 4 teams that have a legitimate shot.
I think for me, if Johnny Davis is healthy, Wisconsin is winning it. I say if not, it's going to be Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would pretty much agree. Like I said, before that injury, I was really high on Wisconsin in this tournament. But yeah, I would say Wisconsin, it would be my pick if Davis is around, and if not, they could probably lose their first game, honestly, against Maryland or Michigan State.
Yeah, because I got a plus 6,000 locked on Wisconsin right now. I'm also very invested in the Badgers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the true stuff comes out.
Yeah, I do love that team. And let's go now to another league here. We're going to let's go to the Big 12. I think obviously this league is a lot of fun just because, again, like I think right now we know Oklahoma State obviously cannot play because they got the postseason ban, but this is a 9-team field. All 9 teams that are capable of winning this tournament.
Yeah, I would agree. That first round game, Kansas State and West Virginia. But I hope that we get a Kansas Baylor final in this one. I know that Texas Tech and Texas are all right, but man, I really would love to see Kansas and Baylor kind of face off with each other in the finals of this one. And that could be for a 1 seed, I would say, depending on who wins the Big 12 tournament. That could be kind of like the playing game for a number 1 seed. They've played 2 games this year. They split them both. So this is kind of like the rubber match. That's kind of the storyline for this one for me is do we see Kansas and Baylor? Do we get the chalk, and do we get them matching up in the final on Saturday?
Yeah, I think Kansas worth noting here is that like they have struggled a bit down the stretch. I mean, they lost 2 games in a row. They lost to Baylor. They lost to TCU. Mm-hmm. And then they should have lost to TCU the second time. He bounces away. They could have lost to Texas. They went to overtime, and then Texas ran out of gas. And look who's in the semifinal round against them, Texas or TCU. So seeing those teams that quickly in that short succession could lead to an upset there.
Yeah, it definitely could. Like you just said, that those are 2 teams that gave them trouble this season. So yeah, that if we're picking an upset, that would probably be the one. I would say would be one of those 2 teams to reach the final and getting past Kansas.
Yeah, I think also in terms of the bottom here, Oklahoma has to win that game against Baylor, and probably would beat Texas Tech too. They won't have any shot getting on the bowl because they just have so many losses.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough task for Oklahoma. They almost have to make the final, right? And even if once you make the final, I've said this about St. John's in the past. Once you make the final of the conference tournament, you may as well just win the thing and get the auto bid. Yeah, but that's a must-win game for them in the first round against Baylor if they're going to have any shot and then, they can pick up a kind of a second quality win there in the semis. And then, like we said, once you're in the final, you may as well win it.
Yeah, I think if I'm picking one, I think I am going to pick Texas Tech. I do think that they got put on alert there when they lost Oklahoma State over the weekend there. They lost 52-51. And I think their defense is phenomenal. They're going to blow Iowa State out because Iowa State cannot put the ball in the basket. It's going to be a big problem against a defensive team like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're good enough to beat Baylor and Kansas back-to-back if it comes to that. I don't think it will. I think they're going to end up beating somebody like Texas in the final.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of upsets in your bracket. I could absolutely see Texas Tech winning it. You kind of convinced me there on Texas Tech a little bit. I really want to see the Kansas Baylor final. I really would like to see that for a third time. So I will pick Kansas, but you make a very convincing argument with Texas Tech.
All right, we got a couple more of the big boys to go through here. We're going to go next to the Pac-12, which to me, I think there's only one real interesting thing to come out of this tournament right now. What the hell does Oregon do?
Yeah. Yeah. And do we see another bid stealer like we did last year with Oregon State? Like we mentioned, Oregon just completely played themselves off the bubble in the last couple of weeks. They go in as the 5 seed now. Again, they're going to need, they would probably need 3 wins to really have a shot. And again, if you're going to get to the final, you may as well win it. So will we see that kind of bid stealer like we did last year? I don't think so. I think that the top 3 in this conference, it's kind of similar to the ACC where it's Duke and then everyone else. I think that this conference is kind of Arizona, UCLA, USC, and then kind of a pretty big gap between them and everyone else. They're probably only going to get 3 in the NCAA tournament, and it's going to be those 3. Like you mentioned, Arizona is probably locked into a 1 already. So I guess we'll kind of see what type of a seed UCLA and USC get, depending on how far they can go, and that could be a matchup in the semifinals.
Yeah, because I don't know if you have it in front of you. Can you look at the bad losses Oregon has here? I feel like there's so many because I know they got swept by Arizona State. Mm-hmm. I know they lost this week to both Washington schools. Like there's a loss to Cal in there. It's like so frustrating because at their best, they swept UCLA. They beat USC. They could have beaten Arizona and lost in overtime. Like this team, if you're looking for the 68 best teams in the country in terms of talent level, they're there. But like the effort doesn't come across all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just looking at these bad losses now in the last run, Arizona State, Washington State. They lost to Cal earlier in Big 12 play. They lost to Stanford, Arizona State back in December. Yeah, but they have the big wins. Obviously, they beat UCLA, they beat USC, like you mentioned. They swept UCLA actually. Yeah, they have the big wins. Like you said, the talent is there for them. It's just not the consistency that you need to see to be an NCAA tournament team. And with 13 losses, that's a tough sell for an at-large bid, and it's going to be tough for them to make the NCAAs unless they can make a run here.
And the problem is this game and this game are both nothing burgers. Like they beat Oregon State and Colorado. There's absolutely nothing for them. Like they are getting to Arizona. They have to beat that game. And again, you're here. You might as well just beat either UCLA or USC and get yourself the other way if you're there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, Oregon State beating them does nothing for you. Beating Colorado really doesn't do much for you. They won't really have a chance to pick up a quality win until Friday night. They're another team where, if you're an Oregon fan, you're looking to get into the field of 68, you probably would have preferred to be on the lower half of the bracket, right? So that you would at least get a second round game against UCLA or against USC to get another quality win, to have to maybe get a chance to play one of those and then play the other one in the semifinals. Now really your only chance for a quality win would be to getting to the semifinals and facing Arizona.
Yeah, I do. I think if there's a bid stealer out of the big league, I think it's them, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think Arizona's going to win this thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good take there. I'm going to pick Arizona as well. UCLA, I've been high on them all season long, but I think Arizona is the best team in the conference, and they're probably going to win this one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's unfortunate because I like Oregon a lot. Just again, like it's hard to reward them when they've been so inconsistent all year long.
Yeah. And especially now, losing 5 out of 6 now in late February and early March, that'll do it for you. If you were you didn't have a great resume to begin with, and then you really fall off a cliff here in the last couple of weeks, that's the recency bias. That's what everyone's seeing now down the stretch. It's just been too inconsistent from them.
Absolutely. Now we'll go to the SEC, the last of the big conferences here. This is another fun one here. I'm looking at the bracket right now here. I think the things to watch here is obviously you're getting 6 teams in here. First up here, Florida up at the top. They have to beat Texas A&M. Then they have to try to get to Auburn. I think Florida probably needs to win at least 2 games to give themselves a shot here.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity this weekend, but yeah, the opportunity is right there for them. You know, they've got to get through the first round, or I guess it would be their first game in the second round. And then they get, what's maybe a type of playing game against Auburn. If they can knock off Auburn and reach the semifinals, I think that they have a legitimate case then.
Do you know what Florida's record is this year, by the way?
No, what's their overall record?
I was asking if you could check on that real quick.
Oh, yeah, I got you. One second.
Because I can't do it in the share screen. Otherwise, it looks very weird.
Yeah, hold on. I got it right here. They are 19-12.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of great wins in there. They have a loss at home to Texas Southern, which is basically the anchor. I think it's keeping them where they are in the bracket.
Yeah, they do. And yeah, I mean, they have the win over Auburn, but yeah, 2 losses to Kentucky. They lost to Arkansas. They lost to Tennessee, lost to LSU, lost to Alabama. Yeah, they don't really have that signature win. I know that they beat Auburn a couple of weeks ago, but besides that, there's not a lot of great wins on there.
Yeah, I think they think they beat Ohio State on a buzzer beater in the NT.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only other big win they have.
Yeah. Even their non-conference, they beat Florida State, who I guess that's not even much of a win now. Lost to Oklahoma, lost to Maryland in non-conference. So yeah, they need some big wins here, and Auburn's a team that they've beat before. They've got a shot here to kind of jump up from that probably next 4 out category. And if they're going to do it, it would be against Auburn for sure.
And my question to you is, like, if they get to the final and lose, do you think that's enough for them to get in?
Yeah, I would think so. Because I mean, if they're in the final, they've picked up a win over Auburn, and then they've probably picked up another win either against LSU or Arkansas. Those are 2 quality wins. They've got a lot of work to do, I would say, because like I said, I think they're more on that like next 4 out type spot right now. So they've got to jump a lot of teams. But if you pick up 2 quality wins there over top 25 teams in back-to-back days, and then you play a good game and you lose to Kentucky or Tennessee in the title game, I think that would be enough for them.
Yeah, and I also go to the bottom of the bracket here. We had Tennessee and Kentucky side by a tiebreaker. Tennessee got the 2 seed. I think it's a massive difference here because Tennessee is their first game is going to end up being against either South Carolina, Mississippi State. Both teams that should beat. Kentucky might be getting Alabama. And again, that's a might, because Alabama is known to lose to bad teams. So they could, for all we know, they could be playing Vanderbilt. But if Kentucky gets Alabama before they have to play Tennessee, I think that's a big problem.
Yes, absolutely. The difference between the 2 and the 3 is huge here, because the difference between the 6 and the 7 is huge, between Alabama and South Carolina. Like you said, maybe Kentucky gets lucky. Maybe Vanderbilt or even Georgia can pick off Alabama, or I would say more likely Vanderbilt in that case. But yeah, Kentucky, that bottom half of the bracket is tough because you got 3 teams there that I think could have a case for the title. 3 NCAA tournament teams there in Kentucky, Alabama, and Tennessee, all who are going to have a legitimate shot at the title. So that bottom of the bracket is really intriguing to me.
Who do you have winning?
I still like Kentucky. I just think they got so much talent. I like their game. I like Sheboy for sure. I like Ty Washington. They got a lot of guys that I like. And like I said, they do have a tough for a quarterfinal matchup against possibly Alabama. It's going to be a tough road for them to get through Alabama, Tennessee, and then potentially Auburn. But I think they can do it. I'm going to go with Kentucky as the 3 seed.
I'm going to take Auburn here. I think just because of the fact their path is a little easier. I think, again, like they only have to beat one of the Arkansas LSU contingent, which is helpful for them before they get to the final here. They've beaten both of these. I think they beat Kentucky. I don't know if they played Tennessee twice. I think it was only once. Their losses at Tennessee. And this past week, they looked much better when they went down and beat South Carolina by double digits. They take a big road win at Mississippi State. So I feel much better about them. I think they're going to win this thing.
Yeah. That upper half of the bracket, for them at least, is a lot easier. And yeah, they'll really only have to go through. I mean, the only thing with them is they are facing a potentially a very desperate Florida team in the quarterfinals that is going to be needing a win, like we said, to make the NCAA. So that's the only thing for them. But yeah, I mean, in terms of playing quality competition, yeah, the Auburn path is much easier than Kentucky or say Tennessee.
We also know walk Florida gets there either. They could also easily lose that game to Texas A&M.
Oh yeah. Again, that's why they're a bubble team. They lose games like that. So yeah, there's no guarantee that Florida even gets through.
All right, let's go ahead now real quick. Some of the mid-major leagues, because I feel like the bid thieves, I think the people in the bubble got a huge sigh of relief over the weekend. Loyola, Chicago, and Murray State both won their auto bids because those leagues would have been two big leagues if those teams lost in the final.
Yeah. That was an ugly game that Loyola Chicago won, but yeah, everyone's probably happy that they were able to close it out. In terms of the mid majors that I'm watching, I'm looking out for the A10. I'm really into the A10 tournament. They got, I would say, 4 teams that have a shot, or definitely 3. I think Davidson is pretty safe right now. Dayton is really going to be playing for their tournament lives, and then VCU as well. It's a fun league, the A10, and like I said, they got 3, maybe 4 teams that have a shot at reaching the NCAA tournament. So I'm a big fan of the A10. Like I said, it's going to be a good couple of games. That potential Dayton and VCU game in the semifinals would be really fun to watch, as a game between 2 bubble teams. So I'm looking forward to the A10 tournament. I think it's in Washington D.C. I wish that was in Brooklyn this year instead of the ACC, because maybe I'd be able to find my way over there for one of their games. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the A10.
A10, I guarantee this is where the big team is coming from, because there's only one team in that league that's a lock at the tournament. It's Davidson. I think I have 6 teams, I think, in my opinion, that can win this thing outright. I'm adding St. Louis and Richmond to the pile. I think either of those teams capable of making a run here besides the top 4 seeds. Also, throughout here, how about Fordham, local angle here? They are never good in the A10. And all of a sudden, they had a very good year in the Kyle Neptune. They're the 8 seed. They're playing George Mason. They could get a shot at Davidson in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and they play some incredible defense for him. What a job by Kyle Neptune, who I bet in 2 or 3 years is going to get some high major offers, maybe even from my school in a few years. Yeah, what a job from him in year 1.
Yeah, I think in terms of this bracket here, I think Dayton is a team I like to win this bracket, because I think that they are the most, they're the closest to the bubble here. I think they're the most motivated to get the win here. Obviously, VCU is talented. VCU can win the auto bid themselves, but I think I like Dayton to get through. They just beat Davidson last week. They're most of their issues are straight after those 3 straight quad 4 loss at home in November. Apart from that, they've been pretty consistent through the season. They have a win over Kansas, which is also something you can't forget about.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, that's why it's a good thing to say that the bid thief is going to come from this conference for sure, because Dayton and VCU are certainly on the bubble right now. I would say Dayton is a good pick to win the whole thing, though, to be honest with you. I don't think Davidson wins this conference, though, because like we mentioned, there's a lot of desperate teams out there. There are probably 4, 5, 6 teams that could win it and could steal the bid, and a couple of them are on the bubble already. So yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to this one so much.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I know this is a little early, but this is something specifically for this conference. David's not making the final.
Oh, okay. See, so they're either getting knocked off by Fordham or by who? St. Bonaventure?
I think St. Bonaventure or St. Louis, because people forget St. Bonaventure was a top 25 preseason team, has a ton of experience by the tournament last year.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. And they were picked preseason top 25 as well. They got the talent as well. And I believe they're a very senior laden team, St. Bonaventure. They got a lot of guys on that team that have had that NCAA tournament experience. So the stage certainly won't be too big for them.
Yeah, I'm calling the Dayton St. Bonaventure final right now. That's my shot on this league.
Okay. Yeah, I would be cool with that, and I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, in terms of the league that I'm interested in here, I'm going to throw the Mountain West into play, because in terms of quality, this is probably one of the deepest leagues in the country. Yeah. I think we're talking about the WCC potentially challenging the ACC for bids. Like, the Mountain West, in theory, could, because their top 4 teams should all be in, and they have teams that are capable of going on the run to steal the bid, like Fresno State, for example. I think I would not be shocked if the WCC if the Mountain West is a bid thief, but I think more likely they won't.
Yeah, because Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State are probably safely in, I would say. So only really Wyoming is on the bubble, and like a first round loss I guess it would be a semifinal loss to Wyoming for Boise State wouldn't kill them. So yeah, I could actually see this conference getting four bids in for sure, going into Selection Sunday.
Yeah, the thing I worry about Wyoming here is that UNLV game is very, very tricky. UNLV has had some good wins this year.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, and that's essentially an elimination game for Wyoming. I mean, they lose that one, they are definitely going to get picked off. Like we mentioned, someone like Indiana or something will slide into their place in the 68 if Wyoming can't win. And they're also kind of playing to get out of that first 4. If Wyoming can make a run here to the title, they will certainly get out of that range. So that's the big thing for them.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's scary about that game for Wyoming is that this tournament's in Las Vegas, so UNLV have a little home court advantage there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much their fans travel or anything like that. I can't say I know a whole lot about the UNLV fan base, but yeah, that certainly impacts it, right? The travel and getting yourself situated. UNLV certainly doesn't have to do that. Now that hasn't really benefited my team, St. John's, over the past 20 years in the Big East, but maybe UNLV has a little bit of luck with it.
Yeah, you could probably win. You could see them winning this game just based on the fact they probably have more fans in the building.
Yes, yeah, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other one, obviously, for the local interests are going to watch here. I mean, I think the MAAC tournament with Iona sitting there as the number 1 seed. I'm going to see if they have their bracket on Twitter, which will be helpful to me. But knowing the MAAC, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to find it here in terms of what's going on. But they don't really have much up here. But I will try and find it here in terms of the bracket. But the situation here, if you're in the MAAC, Iona obviously won the number 1 seed. They completed an undefeated season at home over the weekend. They are number 1. They are hosting. I think they're going to play the 8-9 winner on Wednesday night. So I have the bracket finally up here. I had to go to their actual website. They didn't put on social media. It's a fail out of the MAAC.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So here's the actual bracket here. Iona's side, they have the 8-9 winner, Manhattan and Ryder. They have Monmouth and Niagara. Niagara beat them on the road. All 3 of Iona's losses were on the road. 1 to Manhattan, 1 to Niagara, and 1 to Siena, which is on the other side of the bracket here. Mm-hmm. I think the fact Iona lost last week, I think helps them out a lot, just because like this is a team I could see very easily just they going on a big winning streak. Maybe the pressure gets to them, but they had that loss. Rick Pitino, you could tell, was angry after that game, and like they're gonna be locked in.
Yeah, and it having the 2 teams that have beaten, or 2 of the teams that have beaten them on their side of the bracket, I would say that that's a little bit concerning, but I don't see them losing a second time to either one of those teams. So I really wouldn't be too concerned if I'm Iona in terms of getting through this. And if they do get through it, I mean, what type of seed are we looking at for Iona if they are able to win the MAAC and get the auto bid? Are we looking at a 12 maybe for Iona or no?
I think they're a 12 or a 13, depending on how some of the other conferences fall.
Yeah, and that's huge for them. I mean, even being a 13, you got a shot. But yeah, if you can get in that 5-12 game, I mean, that's your chance right there at making a run. You get a 5 seed in the first round and then a 4 potentially in the second round. That's of course the goal for Iona is to get up to that 12 seed line.
Yeah, for sure. And let's go ahead now. Let's look before we wrap up here. Make a bold prediction here. So on Select Sunday, what's the one thing that's going to be happening and you're calling and nobody else is doing yet?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what would be bold or what would just be stupid. I wanted to say that the Mountain West and the ACC would get the same amount of bids, but I'm not quite sure if that's possible because I don't know if anyone. You know what? I will say that actually. I will say that I'm going to say that the Mountain West and the ACC get the same amount of bids. The Mountain West gets 4, and the ACC. Like we mentioned, maybe Miami's resume isn't as great. Maybe they knock out early. So I'll say at the Mountain West, we've been talking all season long about the WCC. I'll say the Mountain West and the ACC each have the same number of bids on Selection Sunday.
The ACC could also have if Miami loses or if Wake Forest lose that game before they get Miami.
Yeah, those are the 2 that could probably fall off for the ACC. And as we've seen, I mean, the ACC has been a very mediocre conference. We've talked about it a ton on this show. So yeah, and like we just talked about, if Wyoming is able to win a game or 2 here and there, the other 3 teams are pretty much locked in. So it really all comes down to Wyoming for the Mountain West to get them a 4th bid.
Okay, my prediction is coming out of the American here. Houston's have a much lower seed than people think they will.
Ooh, I was thinking about that one actually. Yeah. Explain why, but I agree with you.
Because right now most brackets project as about a 5 seed, and I know Lenardi and several others have had that like basically on the cusp of the 4 line. I thought it was telling that the committee did not put them in the initial 16 and they had 3 more. They had 3 fewer losses at that point. There's 4 they lost to SMU and Memphis, I believe, the first time.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they do not have 2 of their best players, Tremont Mark and Marcus Sasser, both out for the season here. And you look at their schedule here. Who the hell did they beat?
Yeah. There's not that many quality, crazy impressive wins because that conference isn't that good. The American is not, much of a. What are they going to get? 3 teams in the tournament, probably 2 or 3 teams in the tournament.
Yeah. They went 1 and 2 against those teams. 1 and 3 against those teams, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. There's not that many, and there's not that many opportunities for big wins. They've been kind of under the radar all season long. And like you said, they weren't on that initial reveal, and they really haven't done a whole lot, to improve. They've probably hurt their seeding since then. Yeah, I was actually thinking about saying that they were going to be a lower seed than we would think.
Because you look at, I think in their resume, I'm going to play the blind resume game up here real quick because this gave me an idea. So give me 1 second on that. But you look at who they've played. The names look nice, but the overall, like, they haven't really beaten many teams that are in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me see if I can get their schedule up. I want to see who they've actually beaten right now.
I mean, they beat Oklahoma State, they beat Oregon,
yeah.
Like they beat SMU once.
Yeah, lost to Alabama, lost to Wisconsin. And then like in conference play, I mean, where's the impressive win here? I mean,
they beat SMU at home, I think. That's the only win they really had.
Yeah, they beat SMU. Yeah, and nothing else really. Yeah, like you said, there's nothing else really on there that's impressive. Lost to Memphis twice. Yeah, I mean, and that's with Virginia, I guess is a good win for them as well in the non-conference. But yeah, there's nothing really all that impressive with the Houston resume. So yeah, I could definitely see them being even a 5 seed.
All right, I'm gonna pull one blind resume up here because I did get some inspiration for one here.
Okay.
Team A is obviously Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the metrics. Like, what about compared to the net is 5, the other team is 33, the KenPom is 5, the KenPom's 32 for Team B.
Yeah.
The strength of schedule here, 98 for Team A, 57 Team B. Out of conference, 143 for Team A, 34 for Team B. They are 26-5 for Houston, 23-8 for Team B, 16-1 at home, 5th versus 50-2, 7-3 versus 8-3. 3-1 on neutral floors is 0-3, 1-4 versus 2-7 in quad 1, 7-1 in quad 2 for Houston, 3-0 for Team B. Quad 3, they're both undefeated. Quad 4, Team B has a loss, but Houston does not. So does that look that much different apart from the KenPom?
No. I mean, yeah, they both essentially have the metrics certainly favor Houston, but yeah, nothing really looks that crazy different.
Yeah, I think you have an idea who Team B is. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it up here. That's North Carolina.
Yeah. And exactly. I mean, technically UNC is the top 25 team now, so I guess that's not that crazy of a comparison. But yeah, the resume for Houston is it's not that impressive.
And we're talking about North Carolina as like a 10 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, and Houston, we could potentially be like a 4. That resume doesn't scream top 4 seed to me. That's a 5 or even a 6, to be honest. Especially
when you factor in they don't have 2 of their best players the rest of the season. So that's something like, and I don't think they're going to win the American tournament. I think they're going to get to the final, lose either Houston or SMU. So Memphis or SMU.
Memphis, so
I'm saying this team is closer to the 8-9 game than they are a top 4 seed.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. If they lose early, they're definitely headed for that.
If they lose in the final, like if Memphis beats them a 3rd time or SMU beats them a 2nd time here, you might have a scenario they beat only one team and one win as a team in the field, despite the fact that they're so high in the net in the KenPom.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so that's our preview here. We'll be back next week. We will be talking, Selection Sunday. We'll be going through some of the decisions the committee made and looking ahead to the first. I'm excited for that.
Definitely. Yeah, the best time of year, right? Best 2-3 weeks of the year coming up.
Absolutely. And Troy, if you want to follow on social media, keep up the Seeing Red podcast. I'm going to do that.
Yes, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Troy Mauriello. Last name is Mauriello. I do the Seeing Red podcast. So if you're a St. John's fan, if you're a Big East fan, definitely check it out. Do 1 episode a week on the Red Storm or on the Big East Conference as a whole. So definitely check that out.
Absolutely, Troy. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Of course, Mike. Always fun.